The Accor Hotel's Arena plays host to the final Masters Series event in Paris of the ATP Tour season, with several players still in the running for the last three spots of the season-ending World Tour Finals. BetSafe is back with former world number 4 and 2010 winner of the Paris Masters, Robin Soderling. Robin's here to give you some of his expert advice to the final Masters Series event. Hopefully guide you into picking the winner as well. So Robin, great to have you back, and of course let's just take you back down memory lane, 2010 when you lifted the title in Paris.
Yeah, I have some really good memories from that tournament. I mean, it's an excellent tournament. You know, the center court is a really big court, but it's always full. The French crowd is really enjoying it. They do a lot of extra stuff for the people watching, and I just always played well there. And of course, you know, in 2010 when I won the title, you know, I felt like it came a little bit from nowhere, because I was really tired at the end of the season. I didn't expect to play that well, but that week was just incredible for me.
And of course, you know, remind the listeners and the viewers out there, it was the local talented Frenchman, Gael Monfils, that you actually beat in the final as well.
Yeah, I remember I won my semi-final against another Frenchman, Michael Yodra. Being match point down, I won 7-6 in the third. And you know, I remember watching the other semi-finals between Roger Federer and Monfils in the locker room, and Monfils managed to win, I think, also 7-6 in the third. You know, I was pretty happy about that, because Roger was always a really tough opponent for me. But I managed to play really well in the final, and as you said, I beat Monfils for my first and only Masters 1000 title.
Seems you've got a bit of a love affair with Paris after reaching the French Open final on 2 occasions, and then of course lifting the Masters Series title. But Robin, just tell the punters out there, I mean, how important is it to a tennis player, these Masters Series events? I mean, we all know the scale of a Grand Slam, but you know, just under that is these Masters Series events. How important are they to your career or to a player's career?
Of course, they're really important, and I have to say they're really tough, because you know, in most of them you have to be ranked inside the top 40 or top 50 to be able to play in the main draw. And you know, there's always tough matches from the first rounds. You know, only good matches in a Grand Slam. You know, it's like the top world 100 or even 110, 120 best players playing in the main draw, where you, as a seeded player, as a top ranked player, can have a couple of easier first round. There's no easy matches, but at least, you know, it's easier. But in the Masters tournament, especially the ones with the smaller draws indoors, tough matches just from the first round all the way. So they're extremely tough, but also, you know, you compete for 1,000 points for the winner. There's a lot of prize money, so they're extremely important to all the players.
Robin, you mentioned back in 2010 you were exceptionally tired after your semi-final. Long season for everybody coming into this last Masters Series event. No Roger Federer, no Rafa Nadal due to injury. But if you have a look back, other than Novak, of course, winning the last 3 consecutive years, Ferrer, Roger Federer, yourself, Jo-Wilfried Tsonga, Nalbandian, Berdych Safin, a number of different names on that trophy over the past several years or so. Is it fair to say that potentially tiredness can affect the outcome and the eventual winner of this particular tournament?
I absolutely think so. I always felt that after US Open, you know, you see many players getting tired and a little bit fatigued. The season is extremely long, and if you're a top player, you played a lot of matches throughout the whole year, and it's always in the beginning and at the end of every season you see a lot of upsets. And I think that's, you know, as I said, many players are tired and fatigued, and I think that's when really upset can happen.
And just to enhance what Robin said there, when we spoke earlier in the year, the beginning of the clay court season, he was absolutely right. There was an upset with Novak Djokovic going out in the early rounds of the Monte Carlo Masters. So take that advice of Robin's on board before you place your bets. Let's turn our attention to this year's tournament. I mean, of course, you're going to look at Novak Djokovic coming in. He's going to be quite well rested as well, and he's going for, I think, a 5th title in all and a 4th consecutive title in Paris. But Andy really, to me, looks like he's got plenty to play for. Already qualified, of course, but he's going for that number 1 slot. Victory in Shanghai and China recently, and quite possibly in Vienna this week as well.
Of course, I was just going to say that Andy Murray, you know, he has a possibility to finish the season as the world number 1 for the first time. He's 1,000 points behind Novak Djokovic, but he's been the last couple of months, I have to say, he's been the best player in the world, and I think that he really feels it. He won the title in Shanghai. He's playing Vienna, and straight after he's playing Paris. And then of course there's the World Tour Finals in London. So it really shows that he plays a lot at the end of this season. So when I heard interviews with him, I've seen him play. He really wants to reach that #1 spot, and I think he has a good chance. Novak really has to step up his game if he's gonna be able to compete with Andy, because right now Andy's looking really good, and I think he looked better than Novak for the last couple of months.
Well, let's just clarify definitively what actually has to happen. He has to win in Vienna, he has to win in Paris, but Novak has to reach, if Novak reaches the final in Paris, then he will just manage to hold on to that #1 ranking going into the World Tour final. So as you said, plenty there to play for, plenty of motivation for Andy, which probably tips him as favourite, or certainly the favourite for this week, next week in Paris. But there's also the small matter of 3 spots still to be filled in London for the World Tour final, starting 10 days or so afterwards, Robin. And you've got the likes of, where are we looking at here? Nishikori is qualified. We know that Andy, Wawrinka, Ranić is qualified as well. Novak's obviously qualified, but there's several others there in Dominic Thiem, Cilic, Berdych, Goffin, and Monfils, all pressing hard for these positions.
Yeah, I think, apart from last week at the Stockholm Open, Monfils has been looking really great throughout the whole year. Didn't play well at all in Stockholm, lost the first round. I was actually there watching the match. But, the Frenchmen, especially Monfils and Tsonga, they always do well in Paris. They like to play in front of the home crowd. Monfils reaching the final there. Tsonga won the tournament in 2008, I think it was. And those two players, they always play really well there. So I think Monfils is gonna do well, and I think he's gonna grab one of the last spots for the World Tour Finals. And then I think Thiem's gonna do it as well. He didn't play as much the last couple of weeks, but he played the first round in Vienna, looked really good, and I think he's gonna reach the World Tour Finals as well.
And that's going to be huge inspiration for them to do well, isn't it? I mean, you played in the World Tour Finals. It's the end of a long season, but I mean, this is the best players in the world in that calendar year participating against each other. So there's lots of motivation there for the likes of Dominic Thiem, Cilic, Berdych, Goffin, and of course Monfils.
Yeah, and I think almost every player when they set up goals before the start of a new season, they say I want to do well in the big tournaments in the Grand Slam. But many of the players has a goal, a long-term goal to reach the World Tour Finals. It's like an approval or a receipt for that you had a good season. So everybody really wants to make it in the top 8, and that's what everybody's competing for. But as you said, there's also a lot of good players competing for it still. Berdych had some problem with injuries. He had a surgery, won a title after that, but then he struggled a little bit. So I mean, the last couple of spots obviously going to be decided by who's doing well now in Paris, which is really exciting. It's going to be a great tournament.
And just a little reminder as well, Thomas Berdych is a former winner in Paris as well, so he knows those conditions well. But I suppose we have to talk about one outside bet other than those names that we've mentioned, and we have spoken about him in recent times. Did exceptionally well at the US Open, and of course at the Olympics in Rio. But then of course last week in Stockholm, Juan Martín del Potro, after years of injuries, winning an ATP Tour title. Brilliant stuff for tennis.
Yeah, I mean, the way he played in the Olympics was just great. If he can keep that level up, he's one of the top 3-4 players in the world. His forehand is extremely good. He's serving well. He's moving well, and it's starting to look like his backhand is getting there. I still don't think it's as good as before the injury, but I watched every match he played in Stockholm live, and he played extremely well, especially in the final. He's really back there, so of course he's going to be a threat, and he is a threat for everyone, and he's not going to be seeded in any tournament yet. So I mean, I know the top players, they really don't want to have him on their side of the draw, especially not playing him in the first couple of rounds, because as I said, he can beat anyone, even Murray and Djokovic.
Some really key advice there. So when the draw is actually made, which I believe will be on the weekend, just have a look where Juan Martín del Potro is floating around that draw, either the north or the southern side of that draw, and see what threat he could potentially be. It's that time, Robin. Who are you going to pick to win the Paris Masters, and give us your outsider as well for the tournament?
I actually think for the first time I will say Andy Murray. I think he's going to win the tournament. He's been the best player in the world the last couple of months. Djokovic, even if he's not playing at 100%, he always does well. But he really has to be on top of his game to be able to win it. And it's going to be, I mean, if Andy wins and Novak is not reaching the final, we're going to have a really exciting World Tour final. So actually, I think and I really hope that Andy can win this title as well. And for the outsiders, I will of course it has to say Juan Martín del Potro. He can beat anyone. He can win this tournament when he plays well. And also I think that Dimitrov starting to look good again. He struggled with this form for almost a year, but now he finally starts to play better again. He played. Even though he lost to Del Potro in the semis in Stockholm, but I think he played well. It was a great match, and now he lost in Basel first round to Jill Miller, which he was up a set and a break. But he played well, and I think now he's got a week of rest, and I'm 100% sure that he wants to finish this season really well. So I think he's gonna be an outsider.
Well, if you're looking to pick the winner for the Paris Masters, the final Masters event of the season, it doesn't come any better than that. From a former winner himself, Robin Soderling in 2010, looking at Andy Murray, looking at Juan Martín del Potro as an outsider, and also Grigor Dimitrov as well, who's finding some really great season form. Those are his three guys to keep an eye on. Why don't you make them yours? Robin Soderling, brilliant to have you on board once again. I look forward to chatting to you ahead of the coveted season-ending World Tour Finals.
Of course. Thank you so much.